Well, we just came off recently enjoying the latest Hannah Swensen movie, Reality Bites. And one of the things we really like about her is the way that Hannah looks. So, what did we do? We went and got Kelsey Baran, the costume designer behind Hannah, and the rest of the folks there in Lake Eden to come talk to us. This podcast was created by fans for fans and is not affiliated with or sponsored by Hallmark or the Hallmark channel. Hello, Kelsey. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Couldn't be more excited. So a lot of time we talk to the actors or directors or writers and that's fun and all. But it's really fun to sort of go behind the scenes and really get to the people who are making all these things happen that a lot of us really don't know what's going on. So
Yeah.
that's like really my first question for you. And it came up when we were first chatting and you're like, "Oh, I'm not, those are the costume design or the costume department and stuff. I'm a costume designer." So can you just take us through and explain sort of how that whole group works, like the different roles and how it progresses and all that sort of stuff?
So every show is different. Depending on the size of the show, how many casts there are, will depend on how many crew you have within the costume department. But there's a costume designer, an assistant costume designer, and then we have a set supervisor who helps with all the cast on set. They essentially take care of them, make sure they're warm. If they're too hot, cool them down. They track all the continuity. And then we have a truck costumer who works on our wardrobe truck. And they steam all the clothes, they prep everything. Sometimes they do alterations and they make sure that everybody goes to set looking great. And then sometimes we'll have a truck assist, and the set supervisor could have an assistant. Other than that, we'll have on set, there's always BG costumers, so background performer costumers who dress all the background people. And then for me in the office, I'll sometimes have people helping me shop or prep costumers who will clean or organize or anything that kind of needs to be done.
So as the costume designer, you're sort of the whatever, the top of the castle or whatever you I don't know, that's a terrible phrase, but you're basically the one who's the ultimate making decisions and all that. And then it sort of trickles down and mostly they're like the executors of this vision, right?
Yeah, to like I definitely manage everyone within the department.
So are you that you're talking about the background people? Are you like the barista who's just there pouring some coffee in the back doing nothing? Do you actually pay attention to that? Or is that like, hey, somebody just whatever, take care of that person? Are you literally touching and designing everybody?
If it's really specific, like if it was somebody who, like, for instance, worked in the cookie jar on one of the Hannah Swensen movies, then yes, I would for sure have some sort of, I don't know, like either I would look at what they were wearing, or I always see photos of what they're wearing before they go to set. Sometimes I'm on set and I'll actually dress them. So I do have an opinion about how all these people look. So I do, at the very least, see a photo of every single person and approve them to be shown on camera.
So my big goal is to be that one of those background extras in there. So do I just like show up in my clothes? You say, hey, wear like jeans and a whatever comfortable shirt, and I just go through my wardrobe and do that? Or do the background people have something that they grab off the truck and throw on?
So we give them notes. So there's very descriptive notes of like exactly what I would like them, kind of options for them to bring and how I see them looking. Sometimes I'll give reference images as well, like kind of like what I'm looking for you to bring and show us. And then they show us all their clothes and we pick things out and put things together. And sometimes stuff will come off the truck and we'll dress them from that as well. Uniforms, anything that's like very specific, normally we'll dress those people from our clothes from head to toe.
Okay, so it's not me just pulling my thing out of my closet, walking up on set that day and saying, here I go. So you'd be like, what the hell is that guy wearing? So you see it a little bit ahead of time.
Yeah, we
Okay.
don't have a ton of time, but maybe an hour or so before.
Right, right. So you could be like, yeah, no, take that off. You're changing. All right.
Lots of people show up though in great clothes and have great outfits, and it's lots of fun.
All right. Well, you obviously do this professionally.
Yes.
You look fantastic. So, do you sit and go around and can you shut it off, or are you just looking around at everyone going, "Oh God, why are you they wear like wearing that and everything like that?" Like constantly can't help yourself but just judge everybody out there. Not in a bad way, but
No,
you know.
I know some do. I don't. I definitely will notice things that I like that people wear for sure. Like, or sometimes I'll even get like inspiration from things I see people wearing. Like, oh, I love the way that like those colors are together, or I love that jewelry, or I'll ask people, where did you buy something? Um, so for me, it's not really judging how people dress. The only people I judge is my children and the way they dress.
So you're not at like the line at Starbucks and tap someone on the shoulder and go, "I'm sorry, I just couldn't help it, but yeah, can't wear that shirt with those pants. It just doesn't work."
No, no, I wouldn't.
I'm sure you've probably thought it though. But
Definitely. And
okay.
I they tucked in someone's tag or something out or yeah.
Well, who is your fashion icon? Like, is there a celebrity who's just like the all-time, just Mount Rushmore top of the crown of that?
I grew up like watching Sex in the City and like Carrie Bradshaw and all those were like huge fashion movies, like shows for that I just loved that. And I loved Betsy Johnson, the designer, when I was growing up.
All right. I was not going to go to Sex in the City, but interesting. I can see why. It's obviously a big part of that show, I guess. So take us through your career path of like I'm not sure if you're in, seventh grade being in the school play going, I am dressing everyone at that point, or is this something that comes along later in life? Like just how do you get to where you are a costume designer
I
personally?
have always loved clothes. I was the child who got new clothes and cut them up and sewed them back together and put things, added things, took things away, and completely modified everything. So, all through like my very young years, like I would say I was very aware that I knew how I wanted to dress and what I liked at like 4 or 5 years old. And then as I got older, it just became more and more of an expression. You could definitely tell if I was going through something or what was going on, it was really reflected in the clothes. So I always loved that. And then in high school, I took sewing and learned how to sew in high school. Um, and then in this high school I went to, we had a film academy. So we were able to actually go and make little tiny movies. And I always wanted to dress everybody. So I knew at that point working in film and being a filmmaker was something I definitely wanted to do. And I've worked in film now since I was 18 years old, and I'm 35 now. So it's a long career.
What was that very first then job that you had like in the actual industry, not the high school
I
productions?
I started off more in like the independent world. So I did a lot of independent movies, and then I ended up joining with IATSE, the film union here. And then the first show I did was, oh boy, this is a long time ago. I think it may have been Supernatural.
Oh,
It
so
was,
start out big.
yes. I was just a background like dresser on that though.
Right. But I meant
Yeah.
something that we all know. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So when you're took that first step on there, were you like, oh, this is definitely my calling. This is it.
Yes, definitely. Even working like when I was working in independent films, like I just knew that I in some capacity wanted to work in film. Absolutely. Like I now I have my ultimate dream job, but just like even all along the way, it's like I just love it.
What is the best style tip or tips that you could give someone who's like wanting to improve or heck, even find their style?
I think if you want to improve I think really buying things that you really love, that you really know that you're going to wear and making sure that they fit properly is a huge thing. I feel like a lot of people go into stores and like, oh yeah, I like that. I like that. I'll buy this in five different colors. It's the same shirt and you're not wearing them. If you have a lot of pieces you love, it's easier to make outfits and then kind of build on that.
Okay. I think my wife would disagree with you if it was just buying something you like, because I have my mock turtleneck that I've been wearing proudly. Heck, I'm wearing one right now for, she said those mock turtlenecks have long since gone away and stuff. But
They're coming back.
okay, see,
They are.
I'm not past, I'm just forward with my fashion.
Fashion is kind of full circle. It's like everything's coming back. Like right now, it's like 2000s is really popular and like my teenage daughter is wearing clothes like she's like did you keep anything that you had in high school because now it's like what's trending now.
Well, that perfect segue to my next question. What, in your opinion, was the best decade for fashion and style?
I would say not the 2000s.
That's like grunge, right?
Yeah, it's like grunge. It's like all the really low cut jeans and it's very Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, Juicy,
Okay.
all that stuff. I really like the 70s for sure. I've done a few things in my career too in the 70s, and I just think the fashion was great.
Okay, so I'm a few years older than you, and I actually lived through the 70s and then the 80s rolled around and everything. And that was the decade where we're like, this is never coming back. The 70s are the worst fashion ever. And yet, obviously, like you said, everything's cyclical, and even those things all came back.
They did, yes.
All right. Well, so one of the things that we hear often is how actresses are pregnant, various stages of being pregnant, and through, obviously direction, holding boxes and things like that. But also, like fashion has to cover it up. Have you had to deal with that throughout your career? And like, how do you actually, other than having someone just wear a big old coat nonstop, how do you deal with that?
I have for sure. I've had to make people look pregnant, all different stages of pregnancy, and then hide pregnancies as well. Um, they can be challenging for sure. Definitely layering. We'll do lots of layers on people, something that's fitted with something over the top, open. That can kind of give an illusion and distract things, lots of pattern. So it can be hard. But there's always usually set deck will help with that. They'll put bags and things around and that'll hide things. Purses, big bags.
Now, have you had someone who was like well along being pregnant and they were not supposed, their character was not supposed to be pregnant at all? Or is it usually like a 5 month, the baby bumps, or are we talking full out pregnant?
Oh, the most pregnant I ever had was 7 months.
Okay, so that's pretty darn
But yeah.
noticeable and okay.
And it wasn't their first baby either. So it was very noticeable.
Okay. Well, what is the craziest thing that has ever happened on a set with a character in their fashion? Like the biggest, wardrobe malfunction that you've ever had to deal with, and what did you do?
One of the biggest ones was when I was actually working on set, and I when the actors go to set from the trailers, they go in vans and they drive them there, and we travel behind them in like a crew vehicle. And I saw this one actor. He was wearing a tuxedo, and he got out of his car, and then I was looking at him like from a distance, like it's so weird. It's a black tuxedo, but I swear I can see white on his back. So I kept looking and then I went really close to him and the entire back of his suit jacket had split open and we were about to shoot the scene. So we had to have the designer and then my truck customer send up a sewing machine and she was literally like on the floor and we were trying to sew up the back of the jacket to fix it right before it went to camera.
So if we had seen like that scene and he had a thing from the back, he would look like he had a big old jagged thing through his back, or
Did see his shirt underneath.
that's crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, throughout your career that you've definitely worked on a bunch of Hallmark movies and you've done both the rom-coms and the mysteries. Now, is there one that you like better than the other? Is there really no difference? Like, or do you really have to approach them differently?
I don't think you approach them differently. I really like the mystery ones, to be honest with you. I just feel like there's a lot of really interesting characters, and for me, creatively, it's an opportunity to really make everyone individually really stand out. Where in some of the more of the rom-coms, there can be, two women and their friends and they're young, and there's not a lot going on in their world. They're not like around long enough to have much of a story, if that makes sense. So in the mysteries, I feel like everybody's like a part of this story. You get to know more about this person. It gives them a bit more depth, which for me is helpful with the costuming for sure.
Well, you have, like I said, worked on the Hallmark, but you've worked not just in Hallmark movies, but with literally every big star, it seems, right? You, Alison Sweeney, Victor Webster, we just had you, Nikki DeLoach, Andrew Walker, um, going back in the day, Bottled Love, which, by the way, is one of my favorite movies ever. But you had Bethany as well there. You had Brennan Elliott, Christopher Balaha, Brooke Dorsey, Brent Ayers, Aaron Cahill. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on, right? But is there someone who you've just looked at and you go, oh man, please, please get them cast in a movie I want to work on, that you haven't worked with yet?
That I haven't worked with. No, I don't think so. Not that I can think of. Like
So,
I've worked on a lot more than I've actually have like on my IMDb. I've actually worked on 52 Hallmark movies and I've designed 23 of them.
so with
So
your speaking of your IMDb, do you update that or does like someone else have to, or is that like part of your
we
thing to keep?
we have to update it. Yeah.
Okay.
So I've worked with a lot of people on Hallmark movies. So I don't know there's somebody that specifically I would like really there's people I would love to work with again that I haven't worked with in a while and I would love to do that. But specifically, no.
All right. Well, Ellison aside, because you have worked obviously on several Hannah Swenson's, plus you worked on a couple of her other movies as well. So it seems like you got a little Ellison thing rolled in these last couple years. But is there someone who was just like they came in and they were just clothes fit perfectly. They were just an absolute dream to work with. If you could clone them again and have
Yeah.
them be everybody, that you ever work with, was there someone like that?
Yeah. Hunter King.
All right.
I loved working with her. She was absolutely lovely to work with. She looks great and everything. She was just so much fun. The whole show was so much fun. And I also did a show with Janelle Parrish, and I felt very much the same way about her too. She was great.
All right. Hunter King, that professional bridesmaids, right?
Yes.
You had on there Lilith, who was in Case of Mr. Lane, who we talked to, Lilith Roche and
Yeah.
stuff. Now she obviously, I don't she's I don't know what 5'10" or something like that. She towers. Was that like difficult trying to someone who's that tall? Because I don't Hunter's not very tall, right?
No, Hunter's not super short either. I can't remember how tall she is, but yeah, Lilith, she is tall, sure, but I'm actually the same height.
Oh, really? Okay. So you're like, here, just take this off my back.
So sometimes it doesn't happen very often. Most of the actresses are shorter than me. So when there is somebody that's my height, it's like, oh, I understand. I understand you. I understand this body type. I know where I shop for these things. So it almost makes it easier for me.
Okay, well, this may your answer with Hunter may be it, but is there a character, not a person, but one of your characters who has just been like your favorite character that you've ever created?
Like I didn't originally create her, but my favorite character, hands down, is Dolores.
We'll get definitely to Dolores for many reasons and stuff. So, and I will venture probably you created her more than you probably think, at least the modern day
Yeah.
Dolores.
Yeah.
Um, All right. Well, you're an assistant costume designer in A Timeless Christmas with Aaron Cahill and Ryan Pavey, where his character is, well, I guess they live in the mansion, so there's a lot of the period stuff there anyhow. But was that like difficult to sort of having to do this period stuff and, current day and a Hallmark budget kind of thing? Like that whole thing, was that movie like a trip?
I started off on that movie working on set. So I actually didn't become the assistant designer until later on. Um,
Wait, during production?
During production, yes.
Production's like 15 days. How was there time to get a promotion?
Sometimes things change.
Talk about battlefield promotion right there.
Yes, but no, I think that movie was so much fun, and I've worked with Ryan a few times on before, and I really had a lot of fun with him. But yeah, the costuming on it, like budget wise and everything else, I think it was a bit of a challenge.
Well, we're going to go back in a little bit of a time machine, and there was a big change in leadership at Hallmark in 2020.
Yeah.
And we've talked to a lot of directors and writers, and they said like it really did change storytelling for them when it changed.
Mhm.
Um, from you in costuming, like was there a big change in what you before were sort of some mandates, and then after what mandates or more freedoms or things like that? Was there a big shift in the costume world as well?
Yes, I think that there was. I think, like for me, there's a little bit more room for creativity, I do feel. And there's certain things that we were maybe steered away from using that we now can.
Can you give any examples of that?
Like like I know I probably would have never used put furs on anyone, like really colorful furs or maybe some animal print. That was like those are things that now people are doing more and more of.
Okay. Well, let's talk Hannah because that is originally why we wanted to talk to you. This was a character who had existed for many movies. In fact, there was the old Murder She Baked, and then there was a change in production and producers, and so there was a change in that. But then you came on as well. What was it like taking a character who was already established and then deciding like, okay, I'm going to keep some things, I'm going to change some things, and just take us through how you took over Hannah and some of that thought process.
So I watched all of them when I knew I was doing it, I'm like, okay, like I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch every single movie because I really want to see how it went. And I hadn't actually seen, I think I'd seen Sweet Revenge, which was after the switch.
Right.
But I hadn't seen any of the actual Murder She Baked. So I watched those. Um, for me, it was important to try to at least because I didn't know whether or not I'd end up doing more and more of them. So I'm like, okay, so this is going to be could be like the only time I do this. So I want to do it as close to what I had seen in the other movies with just kind of updating the fashion mostly. So that was kind of initially where I started with that. So I was pretty careful to make things consistent and still have Hannah be somebody that people would recognize and not think like, oh, she came in there and completely changed the way she looked. And just really staying true to that.
But then now have you done three or four? I
I've
think
well, I did carrot cake and then
Sprinkle Deceit.
Zest for Death. I did One Bad Apple, Sprinkled Deceit, and
Oh,
Reality. So
so
I've done,
five. Okay.
yeah,
So now that you don't have to worry,
yeah,
and obviously you got another one under your belt. So at what point were you like, okay, I'm going to start pushing and making bigger changes? And because I'm feeling a little more comfortable. Hannah's my character now. I'm not trying to
yeah.
hold on to someone else's vision.
I would say after the first one. So after we did carrot cake, and then I was asked to do another one, I kind of thought, okay, now is the time. And I had talked to Allison about it too. Like I would like to gradually start keeping them the same, but still making these characters more and more my own at that point.
And when you first was Carrot Cake was the first time you worked with Allison, right?
No, I worked on with Allison the first time on Chronicle Mysteries.
Oh, right, right. Way back in the day. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
But then you were not the designer at that point, right? You were more on the side. So now you're the designer, so you obviously have a bigger responsibility.
Yeah.
Was there like just somehow you just connected then with Allison because you've, like I said, you've done obviously five of the Hannahs, you've done a couple of her other movies. Is there like, because she's also kind of a big wig, right? So she probably has a little more say in like, oh, this, that, and the other. So is there like a just a way that you maybe like connect with her, like that may
I
be different?
Yeah, I think one thing with Allison, and because she's producing these and now she's writing them and then she's starring them in them as well, and she really loves making these. Um, Allison's like very, very supportive creatively, and she loves to hear ideas, and we bounce around different ideas and talk about stuff. And she really does like let like me especially like really go for it and do cool things and add little different fun elements. So that we kind of have, I feel like, connected on just the idea of like me wanting to like make things cool and change things and do little things, but still like very much keeping it the same. That's always like a really fun element for me with her. So that's, yeah.
Okay. Well, I have an outfit of hers in the Reality Bites episode that
Mhm.
may be my all-time favorite Hannah
Yeah.
outfit. But I have to ask you, oh, by the way, also her coat that, which I don't know she had in the previous, like that long coat. So I'm originally from Michigan, and it just looks completely upper Midwest, like nailed for what that looks like for a Minnesotan, right?
Yeah.
But for you and Hannah, what is, I have two outfits that are my favorite of all time, and they were both by you. But what is your like favorite outfit that you have done for her?
I loved the red dress. I think it was in Sprinkle of Deceit.
What was she doing?
She was at the theater and she
Okay.
was in a tuxedo, and I'm pretty sure that was one of my favorites for sure. And then other than
So do you like the going for the up, like dressed up versus, because Hannah, one of the things we've talked about a lot is Hannah definitely dresses casual most of the time. And she even made fun of it, right? Vintage.
yeah,
So like, was it okay, I get to doll off Hannah. We're going for it.
yeah, I think for me that is always fun with Allie to dress up Allie because I don't get to. It's like, okay, there's all these cute sweaters and jeans and your boots that you wear, and like it's a lot of the same stuff. Like it's still fun, and like I try to make things colorful and fun and give her like cute little jewelry pieces, and that's fun. But when you get to actually dress her up, I think that's the best.
Okay, well, I'm probably going to then disappoint you with my favorite all-time Hannah outfit.
Yeah.
I freaking loved the cat scrubs when
Oh,
she was helping out Norman. That just was like, first of all, I don't know, she just has them like hanging out in her closet because she's just, spontaneously helping out the dentist thing. But that was so awesome. Like, where did that come from?
so the cat, there's little things I put in that maybe people don't like initially realize, and then I've pointed it out to a couple people, and they've been like, "Oh, yeah." So the cat is just because of Moisha.
Right.
So she also wears cat pajamas. She has cat slippers. She has a cat robe. There's lots.
Oh,
She has a little necklace of the cat. It's like all just like little things for Moisha in there. So that's where the cat came from. And initially I was like, okay, well, teal is like her color because in the cookie jar it's like teal everything. So I'm like, okay, she should wear teal scrubs. And then when we were shopping for scrubs, we saw these cat scrubs, and I was like, oh no, like she's gonna love it. And she did. She saw them and she was like, yes, like that's what I have to wear.
Uh, well, now you've got me figuring I have to go start watching, binging some Hannah's and figuring out all these little cat outfits that she's got going throughout them.
Yeah.
We love Easter eggs. All right. Well, the other one you talked about the teal, her going back the last episode with that her little chef, that blue
Yeah.
teal chef outfit. Fantastic. She looked so good in it, but it was also just so spot on. So.
Yeah.
Does she like request teal? Because she looks great in it.
She doesn't request it. But with everything relating to work, I kind of thought that it would make sense to keep
Right.
that
Okay.
going. And I love that teal color on Allie. I think she looks great.
She does. Well, we talked about how you like dressing up Hannah, and you don't get to do it often. But there is one person you do, and
Yes.
that would be Barbara Niven and Dolores, who is one of our just absolute favorite characters just forever. And she's just Dolores. I mean, that's no way, the one way to describe it. So just tell us how fun it is to get to do her character.
I love it. So, like I said, she is my favorite too. Yeah. Everything about, first of all, I just adore Barbara to begin with. She is just the sweetest person. And with the character too, she's so open to everything, and it's like, oh, like this is fun and that's fun. I'm like, oh, maybe this is too much. And she'll be like, no, like let's try it on. And like her fittings that I do with her, and we have like all these accessories and the hats and all this,
Right.
yeah, everything, and she just loves it. And for me, that is so much fun. And shopping for her, and I try to have like all different matching things and the matching necklaces and earrings, and it's never found in one place. So it's like this hunt for Dolores to find all this stuff and piece it all together.
I will say, and you said, oh, it's sort of continuation. Dolores, I think, has, especially the last maybe four, a complete elevation to her character. Because if you look at other ones, yes, she's always been Dolores, but now she is Dolores, and her clothes are just as much, you know, Barbara Niven's character and her acting and everything like that. Her clothes make that huge statement as well. So I can see why it would be fun for you. But it is the thing of where, like, people may not realize how much clothes really do create a character. Like, oh, the lines, the writing, this, that, and the other. But for her, like I say, it is her clothes are so Dolores. That's, I guess, the way to put it. So the other co-star you have there is you have Victor Webster, and he's not a little guy. He's a pretty big guy, right? Are there like challenges because he is like, you're not going down, I imagine, and just getting his clothes at Target kind of thing. He's seems
No,
that he needs a little special fitting and stuff like that.
definitely. Yes. Yes. It's a little bit challenging,
How
but
how go ahead.
it gets easier.
How was switching from like you had Mike to
Yeah.
go into Victor? Like, was there very much difference? Like, obviously, they're different roles and
Yeah.
stuff, but
Um, yes, there was. Like the styling too for me is completely different. Like with Mike, I tried to I wanted to make Mike a little cooler. I felt like he was cool, but I'm like, I want to like amplify this coolness and like do these cool leather jackets and hoodies and kind of give him like a little bit of a young edge to him too. So it was that. And then I'm going to like suits. So it was very different. The change was different for sure.
then you
But
have that
both,
mustard overcoat. I don't know
yeah,
if mustard's the right color, but
it's like a camel.
camel. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's like becoming his thing there.
Yes. Yes.
Well, so we talked about, Victor, Barbara, Hannah, and stuff, male, female. Is there, in your world, is like guys or women who tends to be when they come in for that like initial discussion and you're figuring
Mhm.
out their character and then the fitting, in general, who's the bigger pain in the butt? The guys or the women?
It's pretty close. I would almost say the men, to be honest with you.
What are they like asking? Like, are they like, don't make my butt look big too and stuff?
Oh yeah, it's all the same. It's the same but different. But I feel like a lot of men are like this is what I look good in, and then like that's what they want to see. Whereas women are kind of like, oh, like, well, yeah, like I'll try that on and see how it looks on me. Like maybe it's gonna look great. Where I feel like with men, it's like if they say I don't wear red, you do not hand them anything red because they will not try it on.
Interesting. So, have you had like as when you're setting up a character and you had this vision, you're like, oh my God, this is it. Have you had like ones where you've had to have a little bit of a battle and push it, pull in some like it's like this, we gotta go this direction.
Yes.
Do you win them?
Sorry.
Do you often win them, those battles?
Um, Sometimes I think it's important too for me to really pay attention. Like, I don't want anyone to walk out on set and feel like I am dressed not like I do not now feel like this character. If
Right.
it, I personally don't love the color of this sweater, or maybe I would have worn a different one. Like those things, I think sometimes you have to compromise. Um, but I would never want somebody to go to set and think like, no, like this is so wrong. I so don't feel like who I'm supposed to be. So that I'm always very cautious of making sure that it doesn't get pushed that. I don't want to win that fight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be talking to April Tulloch coming up as well. And loved Connie Mack. She was, for a side character who came on, just absolutely fantastic. How was, like, when you got the script and you're looking at it, what was going through your mind when you wanted to turn that person into what we see as Connie Mack?
It's funny because when I read the script, I kept thinking like, because we work with a lot of sometimes the same people again and again, and like we'll see them on different movies. And a lot of people in Hallmark movies, like they'll appear in things later on. You may have worked with them, and then 5 years later, you work with them again on a different movie. But when I was reading it, I was like, oh, like who should play this in my mind? I'm like, it should be April. And because I've worked with April many times before, and I told everyone, like, oh, I wonder if it'll be her. And then it turned out to be April. So I feel like because it was her too, and April is so fabulous. And for that character, there was a lot of talk around that character too. Like, what should she look like, and who should she kind of be reminiscent of? And should she be like a Rachel Ray character? Or is she like Martha Stewart? Or like, who is she? Um, and I felt like she should be glamorous and like still be different than Dolores, but like a very professional glamorous and like more toned down than Barbara.
Okay. Well, like I said, I absolutely loved her. She was fantastic. One of the side characters. So great job. All right. Well, thank you very much. Is there anything that you have on your docket coming up? Are you getting ready to design some new people for us, new characters?
Nothing right now.
So it's a little break. So
It's slow here in Vancouver.
it's interesting. So while we're supposed to wrap up, I'm going to ask you one more question. We had Dylan Neal on, and he was talking about like an actor's life, and it's kind of crazy because like they audition again and again and again, and he's like if they work 4 days a year, that's like a good year for a lot of actors because they spend all their time auditioning. For you as a casting designer, obviously you want to work more than 4 days, but
Yeah.
like typically for you, like, how many movies is do you work on like in an average of a year? Just
For
ballpark.
a lot. Yeah.
So So you
Norm
don't have a lot of downtime like actors where you're like, oh, I've got 2 months between jobs and things like that. You usually are staying pretty busy.
I usually stay pretty busy. Since I've been designing, yes, I have stayed. Like I've always been pretty busy. Like obviously there's things that happen within the industry and then it dies down and then it picks back up again and that's just kind of how it goes. So like right now I haven't done a show in almost 3 months.
Oh, so it has been a little bit of a gap.
It has, so this is a longer gap for sure. But even with this kind of a break, because it's always quiet over Christmas time and in the new year. Normally I would do anywhere from seven to, I think the most I did was 13 movies in a year.
That is a lot then. Okay. All right. Well, so what do you do then with if you're just chilling in your stuff? You just like because it's not for us who have 9 to 5 job, it's not like yours is I don't want to say feast or famine is the right way to put it, but you're working and you've got, that
Yeah.
big period and then you have a little break and then working and stuff. So do you just kick back, relax mentally, chill, or are you like stressing about, I need that next gig now. I'm ready to go.
Like right now, I'm like, I would love to go back to work. Like, I think like I've done everything I wanted to do. I've spent lots of time with my family. Like now I would be ready to go back. But for the first little while, yeah, definitely like catching up with friends, catching up with your family. Like that's the most important thing for me because we are so busy and we do work very long hours and
What's
Like,
like what's like an average day hours wise?
oh boy, it depends. It could be like up to like 18-hour days, like at time, like
Wow.
even if I'm not on set, like I am if I'm at home and they're shooting, but I was working, hours before they started shooting, and there's still people calling me and asking me questions, and so it can be very long, and it's a little, it can feel a bit like all consuming, like it's like all going on, like there's a lot happening. So when we're not working, it's kind of like, okay, nobody's calling me. I haven't had 300 text messages. So that part of it, I'm like, sometimes I miss the chaos of it all.
You get to make a nice sourdough, get that like perfected, right? So, okay. Well,
Yeah.
Kelsey, thank you very much. It was fun. Great, behind the scenes stories of what it takes to, make these characters that a lot of people maybe not, always think about. So,
Yeah.
thank you. And I hope that, when we hang up here, all of a sudden you get a little call like, "Hey, we need you on set."
Yeah.
Well, I guess not on set because you're in your office. Hey, we need you to develop this new character. So, all right. Well, thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.